You're listening to Speak Lord. I'm Ryan Rogers. My mental image of a shepherd is a quiet, reliable man with an old British-style hat, minding his own business and taking care of his flock. I have respect for this version of a shepherd. It's hard to be angry with him. Well, God found a reason to be angry with some shepherds. I was listening to the book of Zechariah while I was on a run, and I kept hearing strong words against shepherds. Zechariah chapter 10 verse 3 says, "My anger is hot against the shepherds, and I will punish the leaders." The verse before that says that the people are like sheep and they are afflicted for lack of a shepherd. The imagery here is of shepherds as leaders who aren't doing what God has called them to do. And the people they are leading are suffering because of it. And God doesn't like that. It's not just here. In the next chapter, Zechariah chapter 11, verse 15, he calls them foolish shepherds. And in verse 17, it says, "Woe to the worthless shepherd who deserts the flock. May the sword strike his arm and his right eye. Let his arm be wholly withered and his right eye utterly blinded." Jeremiah 34 says, "Wail, you shepherds, and cry out, and roll in ashes, you lords of the flock. For the days of your slaughter and dispersion have come, and you shall fall like a choice vessel. No refuge will remain for the shepherds, nor escape for the lords of the flock." God finds reason to be angry with the shepherds. You probably aren't a shepherd, and maybe you're not in a prominent position of leadership. These frustrating words against the leaders, they're for most of us. Almost all of us are leaders at some level. If you have influence over someone else, you're a leader. And these words speak conviction to us in any leadership role that we're called to. Maybe it's a big business, maybe a small business, maybe a ministry or a church, or maybe your leadership is on the home level. You're a leader in your family. You're an older sibling. You're a parent. You're a spouse. Whatever place God has put you in influence, take that role very seriously. It impacts the lives of others. I hear these words to the shepherd, and I hear them as a pastor, as a spiritual leader. And I'm reminded that the calling to lead others in a spiritual way is a heavy, serious calling. I hear these words as a father and as a husband. As a father, I have 3 sheep, and God has called me to lead them faithfully. And I have a wife that He's called me to lead faithfully. I hear these words as a friend and a neighbor. There's people God has put in my life, and I have influence on them. And this influence is a beautiful thing, but it's also a very serious thing. Something so serious that when leaders fail to lead and they abandon and abuse and hurt the people that they're called to care for, God gets angry with the shepherds. I know this is not really a positive, encouraging Speak Lord episode today, but maybe it can be convicting to us. Maybe these words can remind us that we have a calling and that our faithfulness to that calling really matters to God. Anger is not the dominant emotion God experiences. It's not the main way we experience God. He's a God of love, but He does feel anger when we mislead, abandon, and abuse those He's placed in our care. He's also a God of grace. He has grace even for the foolish shepherds. Every single one of us has let Him down in some way at whatever level of leadership He's called us to. But because He's a God of grace, we can surrender our influence and leadership to Him today. And as we surrender, we will feel His pleasure instead of His anger. We will feel Him empowering us to lead the way He's called us to lead, rather than His frustration in our lack of leadership? How is God speaking to you today? Speak, Lord. Your servant is listening. You can find more of Speak, Lord by searching for Palmer SDA Church wherever you get podcasts and at PastorRyanRogers.com.